Story time about how I lost 45 kilos when I was 16, 17 and haven't managed to keep it off ever since. Let's get into it. So just for reference, this picture is from when I was like 14, 15. I was definitely over 100 kilos here. I don't know how much I weighed exactly, but I know when I was at my heaviest at that age, I was about 120 kilograms, which is a lot. I just Googled it and it's about 265 pounds, which is quite heavy for like a 15-year-old. And then this picture was taken when I was about 17, so it took me about 2 years to lose all of the weight. It wasn't really super sustainable though. I did become super unhealthy. I was fainting, like I was having really bad side effects, and I had just decided I needed to stop. Basically, my mom forced me to stop dieting at that point and was trying to get me to eat more and do things that were healthier. But then, I mean, ever since then, I've always had this like battle with foods. So this is a picture of me and my gran and my sister. I'm not really sure how old I am here, but you can tell like in general, I was like an overweight, chubby kid, and I always have been. And I've always been told that I have like big bones and a big bone structure. I'm a tall girl as well, so I feel like it's really easy for me to get really heavy and not notice it until it's like really bad. Here's another picture of like my mom and my brother and my sister. Also, don't know how old I was here, but you can see I was like an overweight kid. When you're a kid, it's fine. You still go out and you play and you whatever. But as soon as you start getting older, that's when it really starts to affect you. And like just hearing people say things and comments and seeing things in magazines and all of it, there's so much to it. But either way, everything that comes around weight and how you're supposed to look as a woman in the world, just it gets to you. And so like for me at this age, it wasn't an issue. I was having fun, I was eating, I was a kid. And it was like all fine until I started getting older. And then I saw this picture of me, I think here I was like 15 or 14, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't go into high school. Like I went into high school still quite chubby, like grade 8, grade 9, still very chubby. And I just was not feeling good about myself. I don't like calling people names, but my mom and my gran are what like the internet would call like an almond mom. Okay, like to this day, I get criticized about eating 3 times a day, which is very normal, by the way. But, I understand that the way that they grew up and saw things, and like the way magazines had drilled into their brains that you're only supposed to eat once a day, and like for breakfast you must just have coffee and then water and fruit throughout the day, and don't eat an actual meal until it's 6 p.m. and then even when you do eat, make sure you just eat like a pea-sized amount, because there's a lot to it. There's so much to it. It was really hard being this age and having these kinds of things said to me and drilled into me. And just, I remember being told that like I would never find love if I was this weight, and I would never get a career if I was this weight. Like these were things that were said to me as a 15-year-old child. Like I was a child. And then I started losing weight. So when I was 16, my grandparents had gifted me this book by Tim Noakes, and it was like the Banting Real Meal Revolution, whatever it's called. I still have that book here somewhere. Hold on. This book, The Real Meal Revolution. It's a book written by Professor Tim Noakes, and he was explaining all about like banting and, ketosis and all of it. Like it's all banting, keto, it's like all the same thing really, okay? Very quickly, the idea behind it is to eat low carb, basically zero carb as much as you can, high protein, high fat, and your body will start to use your fat sources for energy as opposed to like sugar and, carbohydrates. I was having a lot of fun with this at the time, actually. I was entering into my chef era. I had started a blog. It was called 16 and Banting. I'm pretty sure I only like removed the blog off of the internet like this year because there were wild things that I said in there. But so I had a blog, and I was journaling my experience through this because I lost a lot of weight. By the end of it, I had lost 45 kilos. It took me about 5-6 months to lose all of the weight. So it was very fast. I went from, my heaviest was 120 to my lowest was just over 70 kilos. Like I was very, very small. I was about 75 kilos here, for example, and this was when I was like getting to my smallest. This wasn't even the smallest I was. Hold on, it gets quite bad. So because I was losing all of this weight, naturally I also started to gain a lot of like attention. I had a lot of people asking questions. It's very natural, I understand it. People wanting to know how you did it, because all anyone wants to do in this life is like lose weight. And now I'm at a point where I understand that that's not a mentality I want to live with. I'm now at a point where I don't want to live my life worrying about how I look 24/7. So I'm glad that I'm at that point now, because I don't want to spend my life worrying about losing and gaining weight. But it is still a very big part of my life, because I have still like gained and lost the same 10 kilos pretty much like every year ever since all of this happened. And it's mostly got to do with the mental impact of it all. Definitely my weight follows, but the mental side of it is what causes a lot of issues for me. And I'm in counseling and I see my doctor and I talk about it and I'm working through it, but it's one of those things. It's going to affect me for a while. It's hard to just forget, because it's like things that were like drilled into you, like eating a certain way or not eating certain foods are things that's like drilled into people. There's no like one thing that you can do. You have to find what works for you and live in like a healthy, sustainable way. As long as you are active and healthy, like that's all that matters. I try not to stress too much about how I look now, but it is a factor. It does get to me. It gets to my confidence. The more attention I started getting, the more weight I wanted to keep losing, and this was kind of the result. I was getting really, really tiny. I don't know what I weighed here. I think this was when I weighed about 70 kilos. This was me at 16, and I was losing a lot of weight. I was showing a lot of bone. I didn't have a lot of muscle mass on me. I was getting very skinny. This was a photo shoot I did when I was like in design class, I'm pretty sure in like grade 11 or 12, but I just remember wanting to use myself as like my own muse. I had like inspired myself and I was like obsessed with how I was looking at that point, and how I looked became all I cared about. Like I didn't really care about much else. I cared about the attention I was getting. I cared about the boys who suddenly started talking to me because I was losing all this weight. And it almost messed me up even more, because it started to solidify and verify what people were telling me growing up, that I would only get spoken to a certain way or treated a certain way if I was skinny. And I would only get a job if I was skinny, and I would only do better in life if I was skinny, and boys would only like me if I was skinny. And losing all the weight kind of proved that to me. And that was like the most traumatic part of all of it. Now, there were times when I was at like a healthy weight. Like in this photo, I was pretty healthy. I think I was like 75 kilos here. I remember not wanting to post this photo because there was cellulite on my thighs. And I actually blurred this little spot right there. There's a spot right there. I blurred all of that because I was so self-conscious about the bumps and dimples that were on my legs, even though I had already lost like 40 kilos at this point. I had lost so much weight, and all I could think about were those stupid little dimples, and that no one would talk to me or care about me or love me if I had those stupid bumps on my leg. And I blurred them out, and I posted that photo, and I wanted to delete this photo so many times, because all I could think about when I saw that photo was how it wasn't good enough and how I wasn't good enough. And I was so happy. It was like cute, caught off guard photo. I was here in Longabon, living the time of my life here by Mykonos. Like, gorgeous background behind me. All I could think about was the stupid bumps on my leg. Same with this photo. I cropped out my legs because I didn't like how thick they looked. And I was skinny here. I was petite. I was small. And like I said, I'm a tall person. I think I'm like 189 centimeters, 187 centimeters, somewhere there. I'm pretty tall. So like I carried the weight very well, and I hated the way my legs looked. All I could think about was like, they look big in this picture. It's not that important. Like I know now that it's not that important, but I can't believe that I cropped this photo so much. And I was so insecure, even at that weight, to the point that I needed to crop the photos and blur out lines and things to make myself feel good and make me feel like I was good enough to put out there. This is me at my matric dance with my best friend Eugene, and this is one of my favorite like moments, days ever. Like this time in my life was when I was very happy, I thought. At this point I had just started eating like carbs again, and this was like 2 years in. I had just started eating carbs again because I was fainting. Eugene was there, I think, the first time I fainted, and we were just hanging out like watching TV, and I had just like blacked out and didn't remember anything. And the fainting started happening more and more often, and I think my mom could tell I was definitely heading towards like eating disorder mentality. So at that point she was like making me eat, like I remember eating like mac and cheese this day, and I was avoiding carbs like at all costs. I was substituting everything with like carb-free versions. Everything in my life was carb-free, and it had become my entire personality, was me like not eating carbs. And I remember it like vividly, and I thought it was a good thing at this time, and there's nothing wrong with that. I understand now that that wasn't healthy for me, but I think I had to go through that in order to get to where I am now. I just wanted to throw this photo in here too because I found it. This was me at like my first pizzeria job. I was like head chef at this like little mini pizzeria. There were like 2 or 3 of us working here in total. Like I was like the only chef in the kitchen, like making pizzas, like I had free reign to do whatever at this point. And this was like, if anyone knows Oskip there in Melkbos, this was like the little pizzeria there above like the pool section. I was making pizzas in that little kitchen and like sending them out to people or kids by the pool who were ordering pizzas. And my friend would like run and deliver the pizzas to people by the pool, and I'd be making them. Anyways, this was like my first job when I was like 17. It was a nice memory, like seeing this photo.